Pennsylvania's Supreme Court has overturned Bill Cosby's sexual assault conviction after finding an agreement with the previous prosecutor prevented the former actor and comedian from being charged in this case. Dozens of people have died in record-breaking heat waves in Western Canada. The country again has recorded its highest ever temperature, this time on Tuesday, 49.5 degrees Celsius. Kim Jong-un has berated top officials over lapses which caused a grave incident related to COVID-19. It's a rare sign of the pandemic's severity in North Korea, which has previously insisted it had no COVID cases. And the former US Defense Secretary, Donald Rumsfeld, has died at the age of 88. He's known as one of the main architects of the Iraq War under President George W. Bush.
In Ethiopia, the Tigray People's Liberation Front says it will push back against any soldiers remaining in Tigray from Eritrea or the Ethiopian government. North Korean state media say leader Kim Jong-un replaced several top officials after an unexplained coronavirus incident. Taiwan's chief trade negotiator says he told the U.S. he hopes the two sides can sign a free trade agreement. And in the southern African country of Eswatini, a curfew is declared and troops are deployed as pro-democracy activists demand that the monarchy lift a ban on all opposition parties.
We begin here in Tokyo, where officials are seeing a spike in coronavirus infections. They reported 714 new cases in the capital on Wednesday. The number topped 700 for the first time since May 26th. The week-over-week figure for Tokyo has increased for 11 straight days. Officials say younger people in Tokyo are being infected more often since most of them have not been vaccinated yet. But there is some hopeful news. New cases among the elderly have been declining, and so have hospital admissions. The government says about 60% of seniors in the capital have already received their first shots. Now, the Delta variant, first identified in India, remains a concern for officials. 55 new cases of the variant were reported in Tokyo. There have been nearly 350 cases in the city so far. Okinawa Prefecture in the south is still under a state of emergency. Officials there are reporting 16 deaths in a cluster of coronavirus infections. It happened at a public hospital used to treat COVID-19 patients. A total of 50 people tested positive there. Meanwhile, a Japanese pharmaceutical company is seeking approval for an antibody cocktail to treat COVID-19. The application is for two antibodies which were developed by an American company. The United States approved the treatment for emergency use last November. Chugai Pharmaceutical Company says clinical trials have shown the treatment can reduce hospitalizations or deaths by around 70%. Experts are hopeful it'll also be effective against the variants.
The big advantage of mixing the two antibodies is that at least one of them should be effective against variants. The treatment is for mild cases. It is very important to prevent patients from rapidly progressing to the severe form of the disease, particularly if they are isolating at home or somewhere else while waiting for a hospital bed.
Also in Tokyo, Governor Koike Yuriko left hospital on Wednesday morning following more than a week of treatment for severe exhaustion. She's led the coronavirus response in the capital and the Olympic and Paralympic preparations. Koike will work from home for the time being. Now, health authorities across Japan confirmed over 1,800 new cases on Wednesday. 41 more people have died. Final preparations for the Summer Games are taking shape with just 3 weeks to go. Towns hosting athletes from overseas now have new guidelines to prevent the coronavirus from spreading. The rules were updated in response to criticism of the handling of the Uganda team after 2 members tested positive in Japan. The task of identifying over a dozen other athletes and Japanese attendants as close contacts fell to the host city. Now, if a member of a foreign delegation tests positive at an airport, the central government will take the responsibility of identifying anyone they'd been in close contact with and moving those people to an isolation facility. And if someone tests positive at training camps, members will be quarantined separately. All training will stop until it's deemed safe to resume. IOC President Thomas Bach says the games are well into the delivery phase. He's calling on all participants to stick to coronavirus protocols, saying the games will be unlike any we've experienced in the past. Bach says 84% of athletes and nearly all IOC officials will be vaccinated before arriving in Japan. Now, police officers from across Japan are being mobilized here in Tokyo to patrol in and around the Olympic venues.
The situation at the venues is different from what we initially expected. But the Olympics are still a celebration of peace that attracts worldwide attention. We must accomplish the tasks of ensuring the peaceful lives of residents and maintaining Tokyo's social functions.
The first group of reinforcement personnel attended a ceremony on Wednesday. They'll be under the command of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department for over 2 months. The police have not disclosed the scale or the details of the security arrangements for the games, but sources say tens of thousands of personnel will be deployed, including private security guards. The events will take place at 43 venues, mainly in Tokyo. Police say the Olympics will be one of the largest ever personnel deployments, and they'll make sure to communicate well and share information to keep the spectators and athletes safe. The Tokyo Paralympics will welcome 6 athletes on the refugee team. The International Paralympic Committee made the announcement Wednesday. 5 men and 1 woman will compete in track and field events, as well as swimming, canoeing, and taekwondo. A Syrian-born club thrower is the first female para-athlete to join the refugee team. Others on the squad were born in Burundi, Afghanistan, and Iran. IPC President Andrew Parsons called them the world's most courageous sports team and urged people everywhere to support them. The Rio de Janeiro Games in 2016 were the first to welcome refugee teams, with the Paralympic squad having only 2 members. The larger team competing in Tokyo could increase interest in para sports. The mood is festive in Beijing as the Chinese Communist Party marks its 100th anniversary. Security is tight. A major ceremony is scheduled for Thursday morning in Tiananmen Square. Party leader President Xi Jinping will be there along with other senior officials. Loudspeakers, displays, and temporary stands for spectators have been set up. Plenty of police will be on hand.
If there is no Communist Party, there is no China. I'm very excited to mark the party's centennial.
It's an impressive show that seems sure to burnish the authority of the Communist Party and drive home its message the country has made great strides under its rule. Thursday marks 5 months since the Myanmar military staged a coup, and there seems to be no end in sight to the crackdown. A local human rights group says more than 6,400 people have been arrested and over 5,200 of them remain in detention. The Assistance Association for Political Prisoners says the military is using widespread and systematic torture to extract information from detainees. The military says detainees are being treated in accordance with the law. Now, pressure against the media has increased. The country's state-run television carried an announcement from the Ministry of Information on Wednesday, warning foreign media not to use the words military junta. It says anyone caught violating the order will be dealt with under the law.
The State Administrative Council has taken control of the country's responsibility in accordance with the Constitution, and it's clear that it was not a coup.
Earlier this week, a court hearing for ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi was held in the capital, Naypyidaw. One of her lawyers said she called on her supporters to be strong.
Her message to us lawyers is to be united and consistent. To the people too, to be united and consistent.
Aung San Suu Kyi has been detained since the coup on February 1st and is facing several charges, including illegally importing walkie-talkie radios. Search efforts are underway in Indonesia after a ferry sank in rough seas, leaving at least 7 people dead and 11 missing. The National Search and Rescue Agency says the ship was heading for Bali from a port in eastern Java on Tuesday. It was carrying 57 passengers and crew. Agency officials believe the ferry was caught in high waves. Nearly 40 people have been rescued so far. Local media quote port authorities as saying everyone on board was wearing life jackets. Britain has announced it'll end coal-fired electric power generation in 2024, a year earlier than previously planned. The government said on Wednesday the decision was part of its commitment to transition away from fossil fuels and decarbonize power generation. Coal-fired power accounted for under 2% of Britain's electricity mix in 2020. That compares with 40% in 2012. Renewables such as wind power provided more than 40% last year. Energy and Climate Change Minister Anne-Marie Trevelyan said coal had powered the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago, but it's now time to eliminate dirty fuel from the energy system. Britain is set to host the COP26 climate conference in November. It appears to be looking to set ambitious targets and showcase its efforts to cut greenhouse gases before then. People in the western U.S. and Canada are struggling to work, get around, and even to breathe. Some have felt temperatures soar well above 40 degrees Celsius. In Canada's western province of British Columbia, officials think the extreme heat is to blame for the sudden deaths of dozens of people. The province's coroner says at least 233 people died since the heat wave began last week. That's about 100 more than average for the same period, and the number is expected to rise as high temperatures linger. Police in Vancouver say their resources are being stretched because officers are responding to so many sudden deaths. Police say many who've died are seniors. Most residents in the region do not have air conditioning because summer there is usually much milder. One village recorded the highest ever temperature in Canada, almost 50 degrees. Now, people in the U.S. states of Washington and Oregon have also seen record highs. Seattle hit 42 degrees. The average there this time of year is just above 20. Businesses and schools have been forced to close to protect their employees and students. Now, a wet couple of days are in store for people in Tokyo as the rainy season front moves closer to the Pacific coast of Japan. Our meteorologist John Thoreau has the outlook in our World Weather Report.
Hello, we are going to be dealing with some rain, especially for the central and eastern areas of Japan as we see this rainy season front starting to move its way slightly toward the north, and we're seeing an extra push of energy from the west as well, and that's going to help really bring the cloud cover and the rain. And some of the rain along this front might be on the heavier side, especially for the central areas like Tokai region over into the Kanto Koshin region, maybe dealing with pulses of heavier rain. In fact, you could look at the model data and it shows us on the purplish colors that are popping up from time to time over Thursday and Friday, and that indicates to us the chance where we may be dealing with some of the heavier rain bands, so be on the lookout for that. 23 is all we're going to see in Tokyo coming up on Thursday. Then by Friday and Saturday, highs will be in the upper 20s. Osaka also dealing with some wet weather for the rest of this week, so have the umbrellas nearby. May even want some rain boots, because we are talking about some heavier rain from time to time as well. As we look at what's happening across Europe, we have this stationary cut-off low pressures and it's still spinning around into the northwestern areas of Europe, and it's going to still bring some energy and a chance for some rain along the northern areas of the continent as we go through the day on Wednesday. We head toward Thursday. A lot of the focus of the rain will still be over toward the west, and down toward the south, heat continues to be a big part of the story here. 38 for the high in Athens coming up on Thursday. Paris still stuck with some rain with a high of 22 at least. We're starting to warm back up. We're stuck in the teens for highs the past few days, so it should be a little bit warmer as we go through the day. Wanted to show you a couple of pictures coming out of Oregon from Tuesday where it was so hot. We've been talking about the heat for the past few days with highs in the 30s and 40s. So this deer trying to get some shelter near the house here, and we are going to be seeing some cooler temperatures in the Pacific Northwest, 20s as we go through Thursday. Hope you have a good day wherever you are.